Tonight, on Legislative Review, making waves, a Senate committee reviews a bill about hairstylist training for textured hair. Plus, the controversial Senate bill on clergy-penitent privilege finds its way in the House. You're watching Legislative Review. Welcome and thanks for watching Legislative Review. I'm Angela Nolasco.
The current beauty industry standard caters primarily to fine, straight hair, leaving those with textured hair underserved, mistreated, and in some cases, harmed.
A bill that passed in the House with overwhelming support is making waves in the Senate as it aims to address what supporters call a crucial gap in the cosmetology industry. The issue, many say, has been long overdue, requiring beauty professionals on the care, styling, and unique treatment of textured hair. The bill, House Bill 1874, heard by the Senate Labor and Commerce Committee Friday, would require cosmetologists, barbers, estheticians, and hairstylists to be specifically trained to style and care for textured hair, from curly to coiled, wavy, braided, or kinky hair types. Supporters say it's about equity, inclusivity, and respect for diverse cultural identities and will help cater to Washington's diverse population. They say many beauty programs across the state don't provide sufficient training on textured hair, leaving a significant portion of the community underserved. For years, people with textured hair, especially Black and Indigenous communities, have reported challenges finding stylists who can properly care for their hair. House Bill 1874 aims to address that disparity by mandating the Department of Licensing to update the curriculum for beauty professionals. This would include education on the unique needs of textured hair, from cutting and styling techniques to using the right products and tools specifically designed for textured hair. Democratic Representative Melanie Morgan is the bill's prime sponsor.
In 2020, the legislature took a critical step towards equity by passing House Bill 2602, prohibiting hair discrimination in workplaces and schools, also known as the Crown Act, creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. This law affirmed that natural Black hair, braids, twists, and locks is not just a preference, but an expression of cultural identity. House Bill 1874 will address these inequities by amending the curriculum that addresses textured hair, promoting cultural competency, including the historical and social significance of textured hair in diverse communities, like dreadlocks, and their religious and cultural significance.
Trade Association Cosmetologists of Washington United spoke in support of the bill.
Many of our members who have worked for years diligently in this trade have highlighted the lack of consistent offerings in and outside of school regarding textured hair. We hope to be at the table to ensure that implementation of this bill is successful, especially in smaller schools, apprenticeships, and rural areas with less resources.
No one testified to oppose the bill, which also received support from L'Oreal Beauty. During the hearing, Republican Senator Mark Schessler asked L'Oreal training professional Sean Stearns about the importance of the bill.
Why is this now an issue for the first time in decades for something I never heard of anytime, anywhere?
Salons often operated in silos where people with certain texture types went to certain salons. And as a result, it wasn't a problem. But I think as the world becomes more diverse and people tend to go to businesses that might be, are outside of what they have done previously, they're finding that they go into a salon that maybe isn't specifically catering to one texture of hair, and then they run into the problem that maybe the people in there were not trained on this or don't have the experience. So it's really making sure that any consumer can go to any salon and have their needs met.
It is about separation of church and state. It is. We have a purpose as a legislature, and we have case law in this state that talks about a secular legislative purpose. Our secular legislative purpose is to protect children.
Currently making its way through the legislature is a highly contentious bill highlighting the debate between the state's child protection laws and religious rights. Senate Bill 5375, which was heard by the House Early Learning and Human Services Committee Friday, aims to require members of the clergy to report child abuse or neglect if they suspect a child is in danger, by pushing to expand the state's mandatory reporting laws to include members of the clergy. Currently, certain professionals like doctors, teachers, and social workers are required by law to report suspected child abuse or neglect, including sexual abuse. The bill seeks to add clergy members to that list if they have reasonable cause to believe that. If so, they'd be legally obligated to report it to law enforcement or the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. Democratic Senator Noel Frame sponsored the bill.
This bill only modifies the part of the statute about mandated reporting. This bill is only about protecting children. We are in no way, shape, or form touching the part of the RCW that has to do with prosecution of perpetrators. We are not changing protected communication in that context. So when I say that this bill is about checking on the child, I really mean that. It's just about making sure that children are safe. It requires members of the clergy of all faith communities to report abuse and neglect of children, including sexual abuse of children, no matter the context in which they obtain that information.
The bill has sparked strong opinions on both sides, with supporters saying it puts the safety of children first and that clergy members, like other professionals, should be held accountable for reporting child abuse or neglect if they suspect it. Testifying in support of the bill, abuse survivor Mary Dispenza.
I told my confessor about the rape. He did not report the crime, thus protecting the pedophile who went on for decades to rape little girls. I carried the weight and secrecy and shame until I was 52, when I confronted my abuser. He asked to bless me. I said, "No, your hands hurt me." I really believe that the best way for a priest to stop the next sexual assault of a child is to intervene before it occurs.
But critics argue that it could infringe upon religious freedoms and the sanctity of confidential conversations with clergy, or what's called clergy-penitent privilege, which allows people to share their confessions with a member of the clergy in complete confidence. A privilege deeply rooted in religious practices that critics say should not be overridden by mandatory reporting laws. Opponents are concerned that requiring clergy to report abuse could potentially discourage people from seeking spiritual guidance, particularly in sensitive situations where they may fear legal repercussions. Testifying against the bill, concerned citizen Teresa Schremp.
The First Amendment to the United States Constitution grants freedom of religion. The 14th Amendment specifically prohibits the state from engaging in unequal and adverse treatment of religion under the law. A priest who discloses a statement made to him during confession is subject to automatic excommunication, and over the centuries, priests have been executed because they have refused to break the seal of confession. There can be no doubt that this bill singles out religious practices for unequal and adverse treatment under the law.
The Washington Catholic Conference offered their recommendations to the bill.
We ask for a narrow exemption for the couple of hours per week when a priest is engaged in the sacrament of confession and barred by canon law from revealing what is said in that time. Bringing the state into the confessional infringes on the absolute freedom you have recognized in other contexts this session, and it has been found to be unnecessary to accomplish state goals in the majority of states.
The Senate passed the bill last month on a polarizing vote of 28-20. If passed this session, it will become law 90 days after session adjourns. To watch the entire public hearing of both bills we covered today, log on to tvw.org. And that's a wrap for this episode of Legislative Review. Join us nightly at 8 and 11 to keep up with what's happening in the legislature.